What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, and we're returning to Crush 1985. And the next tune of the playlist is The Native Daughters of the Golden West. I'm intrigued by multiple parts of this passage or expression. Native daughters, okay, that could be a reference to, let's say, indigenous people or the traditional or historical inhabitants of some land. Now, native daughters could also be a more idiomatic type of phrase. Of course, it could refer to natives in like a, Native American or tribal sense. I would also say there is, by extension, a suggestion of contrast, people who are newer to the area or those who have come who are not part of the community or lineage from which these native daughters spring. And then Golden West, golden makes me think of Golden Age or, some bygone era. And West obviously depends on your frame of reference, and like just as an example from American history, what was considered the Southwest in the early period of British colonial / U.S. history is now considered the Southeast because of expansion and manifest destiny and all that. So, yeah, West is a subjective / relative term, at the very least relative. But again, it makes me think of like frontier type of environment, and whether that's in a specifically colonial context or it's more like cinematic, like a Western film or something. It does sound like we are on a border between the known and the unknown, the traditional and the more recent, the indigenous and the foreign, or the, again, colonial. So yeah, I don't quite know how to take it. Maybe it's a bit more cheeky than it sounds on the page, and maybe my experience as not only a historian, as a historian, or an historian as they say in the UK sometimes, and even more narrowly, someone who studied like indigenous / tribal history in the US, maybe that's coloring the way that I'm seeing the phrase. I'll stop talking now and we'll listen to it. This is OMD. The track is The Native Daughters of the Golden West, and it's from the 1985 album Crush. to start with this piece. I will say I very much enjoyed it, especially, I guess it was the chorus. There were multiple points along the way where it really kicked up the energy and intensity of the soundscape, the lush sonic atmosphere, and I especially enjoyed those moments. There was also a lot of like rattling or shuffling type of percussion. Almost it sounded like there was a clock or like a very fast metronome right at the center of the tune. And there were also some very notable percussive like drum rhythms along the way. Vocals with a bit of an epic scale, especially at the end, which like, was that a real extension? I thought like maybe for a moment it was actually like, you know, like being sampled to keep going, or like it was like a vocal synth chord or something, but it just really kept going and kept going and kept going. And yeah, I mean, the lines that I caught were like fragments. Certainly the thought of it maybe relating to like an indigenous peoples relative to others who've come from elsewhere, come more recently. It feels like there might be something to that, but what was it like? The native daughters, they talk for 6 hours and we weren't impressed or something like that. Like I don't quite know what to make of that. I don't think I heard it clearly. And then, oh, what was the other line? There was another line that I caught a fragment of and I was intrigued by, but yeah, I certainly, even if I could recall that right now, I didn't know how it all stitched together. But I do wonder whether there is some tribal or frontier aspect to it. Like, certainly sonically it had a bit of that feel, in part because of those male choral vocals, which like had that deep, like, ah type of extension. And those kind of reminded me of something you'd see in like a Morricone film, or like a, you know, like a old west, you know, like spaghetti western or something. It had that type of feel to it. So yeah, definitely an interesting one. I don't quite know what to make of it. I think maybe there is like a tribal frontier aspect to it, but not enough to really know that for sure or to give any details. But sonically, a really intriguing one, and more, I would say, on their experimental side. I've talked about it a lot, and you know, I think there are some tunes that are like, they're kind of in the middle on this spectrum, but there's a number of OMD tunes way down the experimental, unusual side. Others that are down the like catchy, you'd find yourself humming the melody and you could totally hear it being a radio hit type of song. This one is more toward the former, which is to say a bit more experimental and abstract, though definitely with a lush soundscape. So really interesting one from OMD. Let me know what you think and I'll see you next time. Peace.